Okay, so this is only if you do not currently have Microsoft Office sitting on your computer. If you already have Microsoft Office on your computer, you can just advance in the presentation to the next slide, which is going to go through common features. So this is just taking through the steps to getting yourself set up with Microsoft Office. You should do this prior to starting the next step. So if you do not currently have Microsoft Office, then follow to the end of this slide, then close down this video, continue on with the Microsoft Office install. Once you have it installed on your computer, then come back to the video for the next step, which is common features. So if you do not have Microsoft Office, you are going to go into Fanshawe Online, into the account, and you're going to click on Content. Within Content, you're going to go down until you find free Microsoft Office Windows. Click there and click on the link. This will take you to a Fanshawe site, right? So you're going to see here you've got free Microsoft Office, Office 365, or Windows. Okay, you can install it on any device, and it will also install if you want on the Mac. All right, so there's Windows on a Mac. On the other hand, if you're running on a PC, you would simply click Office 365 Education. Then you have instructions that you'll work through. You've got a place to go to for assistance and visit Microsoft to register. What will come with Office 365 are OneDrive, which is Microsoft's cloud software or cloud storage application where you can store files on the internet. You've got Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and OneNote. We will be working in this course on Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. Right, so Office 365 is available to all students with a Fanshawe Online account. So you must have your Fanshawe Online email account with your password. So you would have gotten that when you registered for Fanshawe, the letter that you got in your confirmation. So the steps you're going to work through, you're going to go to Visit Microsoft to register. I'll just click on this. I'm not going to go through it all because you can just follow the instructions, but you can see here, once you're in the Microsoft account, it's going to want your Fanshawe Online email address. So I'll just put mine in. Okay, get started. Then you would click I'm a student, and you would follow along. I've already got an account, so this isn't going to work for me, but you would just follow along with those instructions. All right, so you would have gone through to Visit Microsoft. Once you have done that, you're going to so you put in your Fanshawe Online email address. You will get a letter or an email from Fanshawe Online, from Microsoft on your Fanshawe Online account with a code, which is down here, register and confirm account. Okay, so you're going to set up your account. You're going to get a code from Microsoft. All right, once you've got your email, you will have received an email to your Fanshawe Online account. Log into your Fanshawe email, open the confirmation email that you had received, blah, blah, blah. There's your verification code. You may also invite others who you feel will benefit, simply enter their email addresses, but again, that's you probably skip that. And then you're going to install. Okay, so getting started, you're going to click on there. If you've forgotten your password, you can click here. If you have installation problems, you can click here for Microsoft to provide help. And that's basically it. Okay, so once you have gone through this, again, at this point in time, if you are proceeding, you would cancel the video, make sure that you complete the install on Microsoft, and then come back into the video to move on to the next step, which is common features. Okay. Okay, let's get started. So the first thing you're going to want to do is download your starting files from Fanshawe Online. So to do that, you're going to click on Content. You go to this week, which is Common Features, and you'll scroll down until you see Learning Tasks, and there are your 4 starting files. So there's a file called CFO1 Memo, Parks, Retail Chart, and Retail Slides. 2 Word documents, an Excel spreadsheet, and a PowerPoint document. On each one, you're simply going to click on the button. It's going to ask you where you want to save it. I recommend you save it to Downloads, and you click Save. If you are working with Chrome, you're going to see the file show up down on this bar at the bottom left-hand corner. If you're working with Firefox, you will see a box that shows up in the top right. If you're working with Safari, you'll see a box in the top right with a down arrow in it. And if you're working with Edge, you will get a pop-up menu that runs across the bottom of your screen that says Save, Save As, or Cancel. You would click or Open. Do not click Open. Click Save because you're going to be saving 4 files. So you're going to hit Save, 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 Save 4 times, and then that'll put the 4 documents in your Downloads folder. So let's bring in the rest of the files. So save that one, this one, save, and the final file, save. Okay, so at this point in time, you now have all 4 of your starting files available to you, and you can move on to the next step. Okay, so now we're going to open 3 applications. We're going to open Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. To do that, there's a couple of ways that we can do that. Normally what will happen when you've downloaded a file, and again, I'm working in Google here. When you've downloaded the file names that you've downloaded will show up down at the bottom here on the download bar. So as an example, if I wanted to open this file, I could simply click the file name and it would open Microsoft Word, and then it would open this file in the Word application. We're going to show you a couple of other ways to do this, however. One way, if you're working with Windows, you can click the Windows icon here, and you can see that your most recently used one, so there's Word up here. But if it's not there, you can go down and find Word in the list. What I am going to show you is another thing that you can do. You can right-click on the file name. You could pin it to the Start menu. You've also got this More option. I'm actually going to pin it to the taskbar. And what that will do is put an icon down at the bottom of my screen where I can now start Word from here. Okay, so let me just start Word. Okay, so there's Word. I'm just going to minimize that screen. Now, just before I do that, just every time you open an application, you're going to get this, or open a Microsoft Office application, you're going to get the introductory screen. So here I have an option to open a blank document. Any recently used documents will show up here. I can also go to a specific location. I can click Open. I could go to my OneDrive account. I can go to my computer, and then I could go to a particular folder in the left-hand bar here, and then it will show me all the files particular that I can open. Now, specifically, just be aware that when you click to open, you may not see all the files that are currently in that directory. Because I'm in Word and I'm opening the file from within Word, it's only showing me Word specific type documents, so Word documents, and in this case a PDF. I could click the arrow here and click All Files and see, oh, there's my PowerPoint files and some HTML files and a JPEG and so on. Okay, all right, so we're not going to open any files at this point in time, so I'm simply going to minimize that screen. All right, so now I'm going to open Excel, and again, I've got Excel down here, so here's Excel on my my toolbar. But if it wasn't there, I could also go in here and simply type Excel. It will find the application, and again I can pin it to the taskbar if I wanted, pin it to my start menu, or I can simply click to run that application. And again, same sort of thing as I had with the other screen. I have the option to create a brand new file. I can click here to select a blank worksheet, workbook. I can click down here to bring up one of my most recently used ones, or I can click open to open my accounts. And we'll do the same sort of thing for PowerPoint. So PowerPoint is here on my toolbar, so I'll simply click PowerPoint, and it will open PowerPoint, which is actually the video that we're creating, so I'm going to get that out of the way right now. Okay. Okay, so what we're going to do in this step is we're simply going to open our Word document, and we're going to open our PowerPoint file, and then we're going to save the files. So it's important, or what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you there's a couple of ways to open a file. So we already opened Word, all right, so we had Word open, all right, and now we want to open the file CFO1 memo, and I'm going to assume that it's not here. So I'm going to click on open, and then I can go down to browse. The file is in my downloads folder, so it currently shows on downloads, but if it didn't show downloads, I could click over here to bring up the downloads folder, and there's the file that I want, and I'll click on open. Alright, normally, because I've played with this a couple of times, but normally you would have a yellow bar across the top, and I'll show you that in the next demonstration. Once you have opened a file, the name of the file will show up here in the title bar, and it'll show you the name. And if you want to make sure you know where the file actually is, you can click on File and click on Info, and it will show you the name of the file and the location that that file is in. It's crucial when you're working with MyITLab that you know where your file is and what it is called, because when you submit it for grading, you want to make sure that you're submitting the correct file. So what I would suggest is one of the options that you have is when you save a file, you can give it a very unique name so that you know exactly which file it is that you're working with, as opposed to just the file that you downloaded. Okay, so we're going to go back. The other way to open a file is simply to click on the file on the download bar. That will open the application, and then it will open the file within that application. Let's see what's going on here. Okay, now in my case it actually opened it on my other monitor, so I'm going to just click and drag it over here. Okay, and I have the same problem here because I've played with this file. Alright, so there's my PowerPoint slide. I'm going to open my Excel slide as well, just to show you one last thing. So this is going to open up Excel, and then it's going to open up my file inside Excel. And this is the other thing that I wanted to show, that when you open a file from the internet, you're going to get this yellow bar across the top of the screen. Basically, you can read it. It says, protected view, be careful. Files from the internet can contain viruses. Unless you need to edit Excel, or to edit, it's safer to stay in protected view. That's simply because it used to be, or it's still common, that people would create a macro, store it in a file, then send the file, and if somebody opened the file, it would automatically run the macro and then install any sort of virus that's on that file. So they created protected view, which basically opens the file but will not open the macro until you tell it that it is safe. So in this case, we know that this is a safe application, so we're going to click Enable Editing, which will then make the file available and visible in my application and allow me to do everything else. Okay. And again, so there's the name of the file. I'm going to leave it in download, so that's fine, so I know where it is. For you, you may have a tendency to want to save your files in a documents folder, or you may want to save them to the desktop. Just to be careful that when you're working with your files, once you've downloaded it, I would do a save as and make sure you know exactly where you're saving the file to and the name that you're giving that file. Okay. Okay, so we're done with Excel for now, so we're going to minimize that to get it out of the way, and we're going to bring up our Word document. I'll just make it fit the screen here. Good enough. Okay, so we're going to just type some text into the Word document. So we're just playing around here just to give you, we're not trying to teach you Word at this point, just to work a couple of things just to get you comfortable with some options here. Okay, so you can see this flashing bar here on your screen. That's called the insertion point. So when you're working within Word, the insertion point simply means if I was to start typing now, then whatever I typed would go in at that location in the screen. These dotted boxes that you can see here are called placeholders. So placeholders are places where you can type information into the screen. The placeholder itself, so you can see down here where it says click to select date or subject or type memo here, those are placeholders as well. Those will not print when you were to print the document off. They're just there to help you to move yourself around within the screen. So in subject here, we'll click to select it, and we're going to type sales tax revenue. Okay, and we're going to click on the date. Now date, this particular one has a drop down where you can actually select a date from a calendar, or you could simply type the date in. We'll just select today's date. Okay, and we're going to type in the memo here, and we're just going to type in, there's a whole bunch of stuff in the textbook, but I'm just going to put in a bunch of garbage here. Alright, I just wanted to cover off here that this is called word wrap, and what word wrap does is when it hits the right margin of a placeholder, then it will automatically wrap your text down to the next line. So we're going to talk more about that when we start working through with Word. Talk a little bit about the difference between the delete button and the backspace button. I believe on a Mac there is no backspace button, so the delete button works the same as the backspace button would here. So here's my insertion point after just before the letter T in tax. I can now hit my delete key, and what the delete key will do is delete characters to the right. So you can see that it deleted the T and moved everything back to fill in that space. I'm going to just move my cursor. I could also use my backspace button. What the backspace button does is deletes to the left. So the delete button will delete the character to the right of the insertion point. The backspace button will delete the character to the left of the insertion point. And as I said, I believe on a Mac you just have the delete button. And I'll delete that and delete that extra space as well. If I highlight the text, you can see I get this mini toolbar that shows up. The mini toolbar simply is a shortcut to allow me to make certain changes. Just be aware that in Microsoft Office there is usually at least 3 different ways to do practically anything that you want to do. So in this case I could select, so if I wanted to bold that text I could click the bold button here, I could change the font color and so on. I can do those same actions by going up here to the Home tab. So there's the bold button, there's the font color, and so on. Of course the tab has much more space, so there's a lot more actions that I can do against text. And a third alternative I have is I can right click and click up, where is it? Format. Okay. Alright, so just ignore that. Okay, and then then they also use some keyboard shortcuts here. So as an example, Control Home, and that's the home button on your keypad right above your delete key, will take you to the top of the document. Control End will take you to the end of the document. Control A will select everything on the document, and so on. I'm going to hit the escape button, click somewhere to make that go away. And the last thing we're going to talk about here is this thing called the Quick Access Toolbar. The Quick Access Toolbar runs across the top of your screen here. So this is the Quick Access Toolbar. You may not show the same things here. I've got File Open and Close and Print Preview and Print showing on mine. We'll show you how to add that in a second. So you may just have Save and Undo and Redo. I've also added Save As to here. So what the Quick Access Toolbar does is it allows you to have frequently used commands available here as opposed to having to go search for them. So as an example, I'll turn off this for a second. If I wanted to take a look at what this is going to look like when it prints, I could go to the File button, click on Print, and it will give me a preview of what the document is look like, and then it gives me my printing options. Rather than doing that, I can add those commands to the Quick Access Toolbar by simply going here to Print Preview and Print. Then I can simply click that, which does the same commands. So you can add any command that you want. So there's some common ones here, or I can go to More Commands. Then I've got popular commands showing here, but if I click on All Commands, you can see that any command that's in this list I could add to the Quick Access Toolbar. Even things that I wouldn't use very often, like there's Sharpen and Soften. Well, I have no idea even what the hell that does, but I could add that to the Quick Access Toolbar by clicking here, clicking Add, and it will show up here on the Quick Access Toolbar. At the very top of the list, I've got a thing called Separator, which gives me the space, a little line between each of the commands on the Quick Access Toolbar. So anyway, so that's the Quick Access Toolbar, which gives you the ability to customize your environment. The Quick Access Toolbar is active on Excel, Word, and PowerPoint, but you have to customize it individually on each application. Once you have customized it, then the next time you run the application, it will still be there as you saw. Okay, so that's the end of skill number 3. Okay, so in this skill we're just going to do a couple of format changes, show you how to use the Format Painter, and Save As, and tell you how to check spelling. Alright, so the first thing you're going to do, you're in Word. I want to select the text that I want to change. So what formatting does is simply changes the way something appears. So you can see here in the To box I've got Janet Neal. If I take a look up here in the home bar, you can see that it's currently Arial font and a size of 12. If I wanted to change the way that looks, I can apply formats to that. So I could make it bold, or I can italicize it, I could change the color, and so on. Those are simply formats. Formats are over and above the content. So if I wanted to change those, I could change the font type. So I can use, I'll just click Calibri, I think that's within the textbook anyway. I can change the font size here, and I could apply some others. I could change the color, or underline, bold, and so on and so forth, but that's fine. Alright, so I've changed 2 formats for this particular text. Now I could, if I wanted all the rest of the text to match that, I could redo the formats here and here and here and here and so on. Alright, but there is a faster way to do that, and that's called the Format Painter. The Format Painter is here on the mini toolbar, or the Format Painter is up here on the Home tab. What the Format Painter allows you to do is to copy the formats and then paste them onto other text so that they adopt the formats from the original text. So let's go through that. I'm going to click on the Format Painter. If I click on it once, then as I apply that format, as soon as I apply that format once, it'll turn itself off. If I click on it twice, then the Format Painter will stay open and until I turn it off again. So when I've turned on the Format Painter, you can see that my insertion point has a little paintbrush beside it. I can then select text, and you can see the paintbrush is still there. Now I usually like to apply my formats from the back as opposed to from the front, only because sometimes when you're in a placeholder of some sort, and you try to click to apply the Format Painter, you may end up moving the box or something else. So if you do it from the back, it sometimes makes it a little easier to work with. And as an example, I'm going to go a little bit too far on this one. I didn't want to do it to the word re, so I'm going to turn off my Format Painter. I can do that either by clicking the button again or hitting the escape button. And I'm actually going to undo the change that I made. So it's here, undo it twice so that the re comes back. So now you can see that this one is Calibri 12, but this is still Arial 11 because I've undone those formats. I can also use the keyboard shortcut Control Z to do an undo. So I'm going to go back and pick any one of these that I have. I'm going to turn on the Format Painter and fix that one, and then because I only clicked the Format Painter once that time, it turned off when I was done. Okay, Save As is pretty straightforward. I've actually added Save As to my Quick Access toolbar, so it's up here, but if I didn't, I could click File, Save As, I could click a location. Now, one of the things you may want to consider is saving your files to the desktop as opposed to, because when you download the file, it's going to put it in your Downloads folder. If you save it to the desktop, even though it shows up on your screen, and we'll come back to that in a second, the desktop is just a file location, same as Downloads or any of these other files, documents or what have you. If you save a file to the desktop, then the difference is that it'll be saved to the desktop, and it will also display on your home screen on Microsoft Windows, so it's easier to find. Alright, so if I was to click Desktop and Save, I could have changed the name if I wanted to. The file is now available on my desktop. Oops. Alright, let's just do this. So the file is somewhere on here. Common room, no. It's somewhere over here. So, it's over off the screen here. You can't see it. So, but it's on my desktop there. Okay, so that's a Save As. The last thing it talks about here is in step number 12, it talks about step number 11, click the Review tab, and in the Proofing group, click Spelling and Grammar button. That doesn't exist on Office 365. If I click the Review button, it's now changed it to Editor. And what Editor does is brings up spelling and grammar and a bunch of other things that it tries to check. If I click on spelling, then it'll take me through my spell check, and then I can select each individual word and so on to check my spelling. Alright, okay, so I'm going to close that. By the way, this is called a pane. So the pane is just a window in Excel, in Windows, where if a command has further options to it, then it will bring up the pane to give you the access to those options. When you're done, you would simply close the pane to make it go away. Okay. Okay, so in this skill we're going to talk about themes. So a theme is a set of colors, fonts, and special effects that are professionally designed to make sure that the colors all are complementary to each other, the font sizes are consistent throughout the whole theme, and so on. We're going to talk about more about themes later on when we start working through Word. So all we want to do here is we're going to apply a theme. Themes are in the Design tab, so we're going to click on Design. You can see themes here on the left, and you can see anytime you create a Word document or any document, from scratch, it's going to use the Office theme. But as you can see, as I hover over top of each one of these, you can see how your text is changing, all your font sizes are changing, and what have you, to match that particular theme. Right? So they're saying here to select the retrospect theme. They say the second, but it's actually the fourth. So anyway, so I'm going to select retrospect. So you can change, the text changes to match. Click here in the Aspen Falls group, go to the Home tab. We're going to click here on this button called Shading. Now let's just talk a bit about themes. So you can see in the top you've got something called theme colors, and down below that you've got standard colors. Theme colors are based on positioning. So the first two options are text options, so white and black. You're going to find that those two common on all themes. Then you have a bunch of other options here. So you've got a background 2, then you've got text 2, and then you've got accent 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So in this particular theme, you can look here. So the last one is green accent 6. This one here is orange accent 1. If I'm going to select that one, I'm going to just change the theme, or actually I'm not going to change it, but I'll just show you what happens with a different theme. So you can see that that color changes. All right. So it's all based on positioning. If I go back here to my Home tab and click on this box, you can see then if I change the theme, then whatever happened to be in the fifth box from the left, that's the color that's going to be on that particular theme. All these colors below that you can see here, these are all just variations on the original color. So you can see here, this is orange accent 1, lighter 80%, lighter 60%, lighter 40%, darker 25, and darker 50. So these are just saturations on that base color. So whenever you select a theme color, if you change the theme, all the colors will change. On the other hand, if you select a standard color, no matter what theme you have, that color is going to stay the same. So you're not going to have the ability to, once you've selected a standard color, that overrides your theme colors. Okay, and the rest of this is pretty straightforward. They're just simply talking about here, if I select text, I'm going to get the mini toolbar. I could change the size, or I could change it to bold, italic, and so on. Let's just talk briefly about keyboard shortcuts. Keyboard shortcuts are abilities to change certain things without having to actually click on the tabs. So as an example, Control B is the same as clicking on the bold button. Control I is the same as clicking on italics button. Control C is copy, Control V is paste, Control X is cut, Control A is to select everything in your whole document, Control Home takes you to the top of your page, Control End takes you to the bottom of your page, and so on. You can always go into Google and do a search for keyboard shortcuts. You'll see that there are hundreds of different keyboard shortcuts that are available to you in Microsoft Office. Okay. Okay, we're going to run through this skill pretty quickly. Backstage View is simply the File tab. Okay, so in Office 2010 they got rid of the File tab and they changed it to Backstage View, and in Office 2013 they brought File tab back because everybody complained, and so that's the reason you must sometimes hear it referred to Backstage View. That's all it is. So in Backstage View, you've got all your options down the left-hand side here. So this is the Home button. This is new if you want to create a new document. This is to open the document. The Info button gives you certain information about your document. All right. So there's just the size of it, the time you've been spending on it, how many words are in the document, the name, and so on and so forth down the right-hand side. Protect the document. You can password protect it so people can't open it without a password. Inspect it so you can check for things. We're not going to spend a lot of time in here. There's your Save button, Save As. Print brings up your print document. You've got options down the left-hand side. You can change the way that it looks. You can change your printer, and so on. Share, it allows you to email the document. We're not going to worry about transform. Close, to close the document altogether. Let's just talk briefly about this option called Options. This is how you customize your version of Excel, Word, or PowerPoint. You have a number of different options down the left hand side: general, display, proofing, save. Some of these are specific, like proofing you would only find in Word, you won't find that in Excel. And so certain things here, so there's the user's name, and that's wrong anyway. Alright, so that's the name that's going to show up on the information document for the creator of the document, and so on. Backgrounds, privacy settings. Again, you can rip through here at your own time and just take a look. It's just these are your default settings, where your files are saved, how your display is going to look, the spell check, and what dictionary you're going to be using when you're spell checking your document. Your save button, just so where your document's saved. Your language options, ease of use options, so your accessibility options here. Customize the ribbon. You can actually change your ribbon commands. I recommend you don't do this because it's going to confuse you when you start working through the text. There's the quick access toolbar. We've always looked at that. We could also do it from up here. Add-ins in the Trust Center. Okay, so that's basically it for this one, and that's okay. Skill number 7: insert and format images. So we're going to actually open another document. So we're going to click on File, Open, and we're going to look for the file called Parks. So we're going to browse, go to our desktop, or our downloads, and open the file called cf01_parks. Okay, and there's the file, and we're going to enable editing. Okay, so what I want to do is I'm going to add a picture. Now, to add a picture, I'm going to use this insert command. So insert is how you add anything new to a document. I have pictures. All right, I have from this device stock images or online pictures. Now you may not actually have this, depending on what version of Office that you have. You might have an option here that calls online pictures and pictures. So and if you're running with a Mac, you're only going to have insert pictures. So with a Mac, what you have to do is go to the internet, find the picture that you want, save it, and then save it to your downloads folder or wherever, and then click on the insert pictures command to insert. So we're going to go here to online pictures. What this is going to do is it's going to open up Bing, which is Microsoft's search engine, and looking for pictures. And again, it doesn't matter which browser you use. So here it's got online pictures. I'm going to type in forest. Now let's just talk quickly about Creative Commons. This box here that says Creative Commons only is either ticked off or ticked on. Creative Commons means that whoever has posted this file has said that anybody can use it as long as it's not for commercial use. So you can use any of the pictures that show up in here without having to worry about breaking copyright. If I was to turn that off, then there would be more pictures that would be available to me, but I wouldn't have that necessarily have the Creative Commons option here. So I just pick any picture I want and click Insert. All right, so there's the picture. It's a little bit bigger than I want. Now you may or may not have this second box here. So if I click here, you can see that it's actually two boxes. One is the author. I'm going to just delete that so that I only have the one here. I'm going to resize that picture. When I'm in that picture, I get a brand new menu called Picture Format, and within the picture format I've got options to resize. I also have these boxes around the outside of the picture. So this one here actually rotates the picture. I don't want to do that, so I'll just leave that alone. And these are called sizing handles. Sizing handles allow me to change the size of the picture. If I use a corner sizing handle, so any of these four, then when I change it, it'll change the height and the width so that the picture stays proportional. If I use one of the center sizing handles, then that just changes the picture in that one dimension. So it kind of skews the way the picture looks. Okay, so I'm going to use a corner sizing handle, and I'm going to shrink that down a bit so that it's a little bit smaller. Okay, and also finally in this particular, well, there's two other things here. I'm also going to use the picture styles. So picture styles are here. We're going to be spending a lot more time on this later on in the course in the next couple of 3 weeks. So don't spend a whole lot of time worrying about it. Picture styles here simply add things to my picture. So you can see it's kind of hard to see because the picture is covered, but you can see as I hover over top, what it's doing is it's changing the way the picture looks. So if I pick this one here, which is called, where was it here? This one here, I think. Soft edges rectangle, right? You can see that it kind of blends out the background of the picture and so on to make it fit, or to give it an artistic effect. Okay, so that's inserting a picture, and yeah, and then the last thing they talk about here is find and replace. Find and replace is on the Home tab. If I click on Home, well, actually we'll do it their way. So if I click on here to, where is it here? Oh, Control E. I didn't even know about this one. Control E to center on the page. Huh, there you go. Okay. And next to the Format tab, it says tell me what you want to do, which isn't here anymore. Okay, I'm going to just find and replace. Right, so if this is saying that this is telling me it used to be here, now they've moved it up here into the search box. But again, so I'm going to find the word accessories and replace it with tools. And again, you guys don't have to really worry too much about learning this at this point. This is just kind of getting you a little more comfortable using the application. Replace all, right? Made one change, so that's done, and we're going to close that dialog box. Okay. Okay, so skill number 8 is format worksheets. I'm not going to go through pretty much anything that's in this one. I just because we're going to be working through Excel later on in the course, and there's no real need at this point in time to learn how to do certain things within Excel. So we're going to just briefly, I'm going to open Excel, and within Excel there's my spreadsheet or my worksheet. All we're going to do on this particular one is I'm going to go to the layout, page layout, and I'm going to apply the same theme that we used on the PowerPoint presentation or on the Word document. All right, so you can see here that you can look at the chart here. You can see that that line is green. We're going to change this to match to the retrospect theme, which is the theme that we used in Word, and you can see that it's changed the color of that line, and we'll have applied the same options to all of the other cells within this worksheet. That's all we really need to do at this point in time, so I'm just going to move on to the next skill. Okay, so this is the last skill. We're not going to do skill number 10 because I don't need to worry about access, so I don't care. We're going to do, so skill number 9 is about copy, paste, and formatting slides. All we're going to really worry about here is copy and paste. I really don't care about the format because we're going to get through all of that when we work through PowerPoint in the regular class schedule. So what we're going to look at here is, what I want to do is I'm in Excel, I want to select this chart, So when I select the chart, I simply click on the outside. You can see that the chart is selected because I can see these sizing handles around the outside. And then I'm going to copy and I'm going to paste this that chart into a PowerPoint presentation. So copy and paste are on the Home tab. So you can see there's copy, there's cut, there's paste. Now here's what happens when you do a copy. It takes whatever you have selected and it makes a copy of that and it puts it into a location called the clipboard. If you do a cut, what it does is it removes it from the original document and puts a copy in the clipboard. Once something is in the clipboard, then you can paste that object into another location within your Word document, within your PowerPoint, or within your Excel, or you can actually sometimes copy and paste between applications. So I'm actually going to copy this chart, which will put it on the clipboard. Then I'm going to open PowerPoint and I'm going to paste it into my PowerPoint presentation. So here's what we'll do. And again, copy is here. So I've got an option here. I can also do a Control-C, which is the keyboard shortcut for copy, or I could do a right click and copy from here. Then I'm going to open up my PowerPoint presentation. So we want this one here called Retail Slides. Let's move it a bit so that it's in the box. All right, and I'm going to, then I can go up here to paste. There's also an option called Paste Objects, which gives me different options or paste options. But I'm just going to click the paste button, and there's my chart from my Excel workbook. Once I'm in that chart, I also get this new menu here called Chart Design and Format. These are what are called context-sensitive tabs or contextual tabs. In other words, if I click off that chart, you can see those two tabs disappear. When I click back on the chart, yeah, just slow it up here, so give it a second. Okay, so when I click on that chart, then you can see that those two tabs show up again. So there's my Format tab and there's my Chart Options or Chart Design tab. Okay, so that's basically it. So now we are done with this instruction. Now I would ask you to go on to the very next component, so the next option down in your Fanshawe Online. All right, if I go back to Fanshawe Online, okay, whoops, I've lost, let me go back to where we were. There's my dog going crazy out there. Okay, so we have done all of this. Now we're going to have you, you can close what you saved, so you can close all of the Word, the Excel, the PowerPoint slides, and click here to open a video, which will set you up in MyITLab, and then we'll have you actually create a very quick practice MyITLab grader, which you should actually do that. You also have to do your quiz here, and the quiz is in Fanshawe Online. The quiz is due Friday at midnight. There is no grader assignment this particular week, so all you have for grades this week is a quiz in Fanshawe Online, and that's due by Friday at midnight. Okay, so what you're going to do, close all the stuff that you've got open, PowerPoint, Word, Excel, go back to Fanshawe Online, click this box here to open up the video on getting yourself set up on MyITLab, and now and just read through that, work through the practice grader assignment so that you understand how to do that for next week when we start on PowerPoint. Okay, thanks very much, and we're ready to rock and roll.